alert! Learning is important, right?
Yes, exactly. What a bunch of nerds.
Nerd alert!
Right.
Marketing Architects.
Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Jasper. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob DeMars, the Chief Product Architect of Misfits and Machines.
Hello.
Hello. We are back with your weekly Nerd Alert. Every week, I'll take a deep dive into academic marketing research and translate its complex ideas into simple, understandable language for Rob. And of course, for all of you, are you ready to nerd out, Rob?
Forecast calls for a nerd storm. Let's do this.
Let's do this. As always, we'll link the research we cover in the episode notes. This week, I read a study titled Evolution and Trends in Consumer Behavior by Wang Mark Lim, Satish Kumar, Nitesh Pandey, Deepak Verma, and Divash Kumar. Today, we're reviewing a study that's quite extensive. It's a summary of a bunch of consumer behavior research from the Journal of Consumer Behavior. So we're going to share a lot of interesting information about the state of the consumer. But first, Rob, I want to ask you this. What behaviors of yours would you say have changed the most since the COVID pandemic?
Well, one of my favorite pastimes before the pandemic was listening to podcasts in my car on the way to work. It was such a delight to have that time carved out. And now I feel like I have to be more proactive at consuming podcasts because I don't have that commute like I used to because we now work remotely. And then the comfort level of ordering food is definitely increased. Using the Grubhubs and the DoorDashes of the world is definitely now part of our meal portfolio, where before it was like maybe pizza, but otherwise we would drive ourselves to get our food.
That's a great one. Just the comfortability with food delivery. I was thinking similar, like just work from home, which we're still a work from home
for sure
company. Like that just changes so many of your habits. And one other thing I had was I started doing triathlons during COVID, like not competing in them, but training for them, because I think a lot of people kind of picked up new hobbies and sports, and it's easier to do that when you work from home because you're removing that commute time for training. So I asked you that because this is going to be a bit of a theme in the study, because no surprise, the COVID pandemic changed a lot of our routines. And in this paper, they're reviewing data that tracks how consumer interests and activities have shifted over the past decade or so, from what we value in a product to how we decide what to buy. So they analyzed over 737 articles published in the Journal of Consumer Behavior from 2009 to 2022, uncovering the most popular research topics and identifying trends. The study begins by categorizing the research into 8 major themes. Some of these are classic areas in consumer research, like how we process information and the ways we interact with brands. Another core area is consumption communities, or how groups with shared consumption habits form communities, both in person and online. There's also groups on intergenerational consumer behavior, which looks at how different age groups make consumption choices. And then there's consumer brand relationships, which is focused on the connections that people can form with brands. And then there's something that they found about in the more recent years. As we moved into the last 5 years, the journal saw a rise in studies on what might feel like a newer, more urgent topic. Consumer neuroscience, for instance, has grown, with researchers studying how our brains react to marketing cues. We also see a focus on consumer values, such as ethical consumption and sustainable choices. So it's not just about what we're buying, but about aligning these choices with personal values and global concerns. And now, there's a bit of a twist. When the researchers zoomed in on the past few years, they found that 2 themes are truly driving today's consumer behavior studies. They're looking at, out of all these papers, like what are the themes people are most interested in? Right. And it's sustainable consumption and consumer ethics. So no surprise, this spike has been largely fueled by events like COVID-19 and the global push towards environmental goals and social responsibilities. So consumers are increasingly making decisions based on this journal, looking at not just their personal needs, but on how their choices align with broader social issues like environmental impact and corporate ethics. So the main takeaway here is consumer behavior research is keeping pace with shifting societal values, showing this bit of a pivot towards more conscious, values-driven choices. And researchers have really focused on how someone's values influence what they buy. Now, I think we have to be careful about how we label groups of consumers and respond to societal events like the pandemic, because we all went through a lot in that moment of everything has changed forever. And of course, a lot changed, but also a lot has stayed the same. And then I think a lot has also kind of boomeranged back to how it was before. So quickly, the Rob GPT. This study is like an archaeological dig into the layers of consumer behavior, where researchers unearth the foundations of classic habits, only to uncover a new layer of ethical and sustainable choices buried underneath. Each layer tells a story, showing how consumer priorities have shifted from what's in it for me to what's in it for the world, revealing a deeper evolution what drives us to buy. All right, Rob, what did you think?
I think it's super interesting. I would be fascinated to know how price sensitivity plays into that. How much of the value of a particular brand is worth to a consumer in terms of price point, and would they spend more to obtain a product that has similar values, or at what point are they willing to go, I guess that's not as important to me if the price is less?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's too bad that the paper it cut off at 2022, because I was wondering the same thing. Like, has behavior changed now that we're 2 more years removed from
Did it
2022?
stick? Right.
And especially this year when consumers have become a lot more price sensitive with
Yes.
inflation. Like, I wonder if just like a lot of the COVID habits are like boomeranging back, if maybe
Yeah.
some of this like values driven buying and like has some of that shifted
Yes.
since just the economy has changed. And was it more of a phase or is it more of a lasting thing? I don't think we really know yet. You hear a lot about how consumers are more value driven and they care about these things, but then you also see evidence that they don't. So it's like with the rise of
Yeah.
Temu, for example, like Temu's competing with Amazon. And if consumers were just 100% values driven, I don't think that growth would be happening. So it's this, I always have trouble with stuff like this.
We've even seen that prior to the pandemic, where we would test particular campaigns that would focus on particular values more than others to see if that would drive a better consumer response. And sometimes we were pretty surprised. While the data may say, yeah, we definitely are passionate about that, it wasn't necessarily driving the buying decisions. I have an example, but I don't know if we want to include it.
Why?
Okay, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, do you tell me, we can decide.
So one example is we had an advertiser who thought that their customer would care that their product was made in America. It was an older audience. So this advertiser went out of their way to relocate manufacturing in the United States so that they could actually say in their advertising that it was made in America. But all of those ads that we ended up testing with that particular message strategy did not drive greater response. And at the end of the day, that particular consumer, while they might favor products that are made in America, they favor products that are more cost effective even more. And all the efficiencies of manufacturing that product overseas was actually of greater value to that audience.
That's so interesting, and also a testament to the type of pre-testing we do, because I'll bet if you had gotten someone in a focus group and asked them, they would say,
100%.
I care more. But when you actually look at the sales data, it's different.
They did. I mean, that was the truth. Is this was all of the focus group data. This was years ago, but all the focus group data would have said, yes, we favor made in America products, but people oftentimes vote with their wallet.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so interesting. It's another reason to test with synthetic audiences too, because
Yes.
you can maybe get more closer to the truth than with a person that wants to portray themselves in a certain way. I wonder if the Made in the USA has changed at all, considering like there's been more attention recently on bringing manufacturing back to the United States. I wonder if it's changed, but
Yeah.
who knows? It might just be one of those things again that people say they care about, but then I guess the rise of Temu would dispute that. And you're right. Like people are buying based on value again and again and again.
Absolutely. I think if you want to know what someone truly values, look at their credit card statement. I'm stealing that from someone else, but I always thought that was a good line.
Yeah. Like you say, if you've stolen from me, you've stolen twice. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Taylor De Los Reyes for producing the show. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you like the podcast, please leave us a review. Now go forth and build great marketing.
Marketing Architects.